Hello and welcome to the Good Game Podcast. This is episode 2, and joining me on the show today is Ben Shackleford.
Hello.
Peter Burns.
That's me.
And Gus Ronald.
Hello there.
So guys, welcome to the new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
2016.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Are we beyond the point of saying Happy New Year though?
Yeah,
very
there's
much
always
so.
that buffer, isn't there?
Yeah.
Are we still in the first week?
We're still in, I think
It's
today's
eight.
the last day.
It's the 8th.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
way past it.
So after this week, we can't say it anymore.
Agreed.
But it's
How
okay.
many, I think it's dictated by how many Christmas trees line your street.
Yeah.
There's
I live
about
in an
8
apartment
dead
block.
ones out. Oh, right.
Yeah.
If you're still saying Happy New Year, it's like you've woken up from a week-long drunken
I could talk
coma.
about
That's
I could
true.
talk about Christmas tree disposal for the next 20 minutes. If
Oh
you
dear,
like.
no, let's
Do
move
go
on.
on.
No, let's skip that.
Let's not.
What do you guys do in the holiday?
I went down and visited my family in merry old Melbourne for a few days, and then I just sort of chilled out around the house. Bit of spring cleaning, got rid of a few T-shirts that I don't wear, and got rid of, finally, my old iMac, which it hurt to throw it away. But
What colour was the iMac?
Or
was it one of
was
the
one
white
of those
ones?
silver ones.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But you just kind of hang on to stuff, and it's like, oh, but there's so much good stuff on the hard drive. And then I booted it up, and the screen was all weird, and I was like, okay, it's time to say goodbye.
So where does one get rid of computers? Like, do you just throw it out, or?
Yeah, I had to go to an e-waste center. Yeah,
Right.
I know.
I imagine
It
with
sounds
Apple,
cooler than it is.
I imagine with Apple products, there's a number you call, and a man in a turtleneck will turn up
That's
and
right.
dip his head gracefully, and then take it out of your
Put
house
it in
before.
a well-designed white box.
Yeah, he'll repackage it.
Goes
Imagine that
off.
there's reboxings of Apple
Designed in
products.
California. Yeah. So that was pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, cool. I just did lots of family stuff.
Mm.
It was a short break, wasn't it?
It was for us.
That,
It was.
that 2 working weeks off.
I mean, most listeners won't know, but usually Good Game, we have about 6 weeks off. So 6 weeks is just about enough time to get bored of the holidays and to kind of miss the people you work with. And this year we were back after 2 weeks, which is the shortest break I think we've ever had on the team.
But we must say we haven't got Sammy and Rad and Bajo and X, and a lot of other people are still on break. It's kind of
the skeleton crew.
Yeah, the core team. I guess.
Also, we shouldn't expect any sympathy from people complaining
No,
about
no.
our two. Like, this
No,
is
it's a
what
real-
normal
real
people
job.
in real jobs
Mm.
get for holidays, and here we are acting like martyrs, going, "We're back already." And even now, it's such a quiet office that it's like it's actually quite.
It's like I haven't started missing your face yet, Gus.
No.
And already we're
Usually
back.
when I come back, everyone's quite excited to see me, and this year I'm getting contempt.
No, we just have enough time to build up enough of a facade to pretend that we're happy to see you.
Oh, I
So we just didn't get that.
I
this
missed
time.
you guys too.
The end of that 2 weeks, it was like I was finally settling into holiday mode,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, I'm back.
And
you start to get in
they
a rhythm
dragged
of
you
going
back
to
in.
bed at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and waking up at
Because that
12.
first week you're still agitated. You're like, I should be doing something, and I'm
Yeah.
not. You feel like you should be working, and you can't enjoy holiday, and then suddenly, you get into it and you're back.
I don't know what you're all talking about. I'm so happy to be back and see you all.
You spent the holidays underneath your desk, didn't you?
I
You
didn't
even
leave. I never left.
Like, you saw the New Year's fireworks from level 14 on the
Yeah,
ABC
exactly.
building.
I stuck around did the ABC
That'd be
fireworks.
great view.
We should do that this
Oh,
year.
yeah, not a bad idea. But no, I similar to Ben, I went down to Melbourne and saw my family and spent just enough time with them to get sick of them before they won't listen to this. And then came straight back and got back into work where we are now.
I mean, what makes us good is the weather has been awful.
Yeah,
That's
it's been
true.
perfect.
That's
yeah.
true.
So it's not like it was sunny and 28 degrees every day and you just wanted to be at the beach. So
Mm.
it wasn't
Now
too
it's
bad.
sunny and we
Now.
wish we were there.
Now it's sunny, yeah. Similarly, I spent a lot of time with my family. Pretty much it. And refinished a coffee table. Spent a lot of
Right.
time at Bunnings buying various bits of hardware.
Yeah, so what
Give
does
us,
that
now
sound
I
like?
feel
Full
like I didn't
standback?
do enough.
I have an orbital sander now. I own
There
an
you
orbital
go.
sander.
Wow.
And I know the difference between different types of wood finishes,
Yeah.
varnishes,
Yeah.
wood, water-based,
Stain
oil-based.
or a varnish?
Or
What'd you go for?
I went both. I went stain in a
Right.
varnish. I put stain in a varnish.
Can I interject and say that I apologise to anyone listening who's already now heard us talk about our families, the weather, and now different finishes for coffee
We are winning
tables.
at
It's
podcasting.
riveting.
Yeah.
It's all life experience, folks.
Yeah.
We'll put all of this into the programming that we make this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Like on Spawn Point,
I think everybody's
Yeah.
looking
Darren's
forward
going to
the
finish
varnish
a
episode.
revarnish of coffee
Yeah.
table.
Life experience.
Good
Exactly.
game, Mum edition. Mum,
Yeah.
what game have you played?
Best
Apart from
foods you've
solitaire.
consumed over the break?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question.
I mean, I
love the Christmas ham.
Yeah, I can't go past a ham. It's the
Yeah.
one time of the year you have a Christmas ham, and just ham seems to find its way into every meal. Like, it's a running joke in my family that we have this giant ham left over, and we're like, "Mum, what's for dinner?" She's like, "Well, I thought I'd take a little bit of bacon, a little bit of pig tonight. We're having ham again, aren't we?" Just like, yeah, that's all we have left. But do you have the ham in the bag? Do you have the canvas bag that you put it in?
The ham bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this amazingly big, like, for anyone who doesn't know, you have to put ham in a bag, otherwise it sweats. So you've got this huge canvas pillowcase often in your fridge, taking up the majority of the space. And every time you want to make a sandwich, you have to lug a pillowcase out, carve something off like some sort of Neanderthal man, and then put it back. It's a fun process to only do once a year.
Makes you work for that ham sandwich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here
gotta
we are
really
complaining
want
again about how tough
How
life
tough it is
was.
to
Yeah.
make.
Do you
Having,
do
like,
you then
6
use that
kilos of
canvas
ham.
bag over a pillow? Like then you have the essence of
Imagine that.
then you just sleep with the essence of ham
Oh, wow.
for Christmas.
Ham
Dry
scented
yourself with it
pillows.
after the shower.
That sounds like some kind of hipster product you'd buy, like ham
Essence
scented.
of
Essence of ham.
My sister is a chef,
Oh,
so she
Awesome.
made these deconstructed plum sorbet mousse things for Christmas, and I was full, but I couldn't get enough of it. There we go.
I love
Let's,
the fad of deconstructing things.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not really cooking then, are you? You just put things
That's
on the plate.
true. You should call her up and
Essentially,
Do
you're
you-
removing the last 3 steps of the recipe and just
Yeah.
stopping
It's like,
there.
here's the ingredients.
You just didn't do the
Done.
construction.
do you ever watch cooking shows with your sister?
No, I don't. I don't think she's really into them because she's like, look, this is my day job. I guess it's like us watching a show about gaming. It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
God, who'd
But, like,
wanna do
I
that?
feel like
Wouldn't
she would have amazing commentary to give.
Yeah, she. I won't swear,
That'd be
but
the
whenever
worst.
I have tried to show her various cooking shows, she's like, "Oh, that's So yeah,
Yeah, you
she's
show
good. She's got a
professional.
good BS detector.
Did anyone play anything good over the break?
I just, as I do whenever I can, I finished off Halo. That was
Oh,
my
right.
summer.
The campaign for Halo
Yeah,
5. What did
yeah.
you think?
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell was going on. I mean, I kind of do know what was going on, but I have dipped my toe into the Halo franchise over the years, and I don't really know what's going on, but I also don't care.
Yeah,
I'm just
fair
like, it's great sci-fi, it's great shooting, and it's just good fun.
I think Halo fans even didn't know what was going on. Pete, you'd probably agree.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was a bit more cut up about it than me. I just find they've gone way too deep into the lore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
That's what I
it's the
felt.
worm eating the worm.
Yeah.
They're creating all this stuff that no one knows about unless they've read
Yeah.
15 different
Yeah.
comics on it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm not really interested to read the books or watch the movies or anything, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's not that compelling.
No.
Yeah, the simple story was fine.
Hmm.
Man in suit falls in love with blue AI.
With blue
Okay,
AI.
you've already
Who then
gotten
goes
so
nuts.
that is not
Yeah.
a simple
That's
story.
sci-fi.
On ring-like planet.
Yeah.
We've all heard that one before.
Here we go again.
I
That's
had
it.
just had a whole stash of games on my desk, which I looked at every day.
You
It
took
just
a lot.
didn't-
You took a
didn't
lot of
touch.
games home. Did you touch any of them?
No.
Right.
Every time I looked at the pile, I just went, "Ugh."
That was the problem. We intimidated you.
You
They
did.
gave you
the
like
pile was-
12 boxes.
You gave me
Well, we
so
could've
many
given you two.
boxes. I just went, there's no way I can get a start on this in 2 weeks' time.
And juggle
So-
family.
And juggle family and a coffee table.
Yeah. Oh god. That's the tricky thing though. It's like I often take games home on a laptop with me.
Yeah,
while
so
I'm...
2 layers of sanding is the really tricky.
Hang on, we're back to the. It's taking games to sort of run away from your family if you're catching up with them, and just being like you're spending so much time doing family stuff. You're just like, I'm just gonna duck out and play some games for a while. It just feels weird doing it as a grown up versus when I was a kid. I'd run off to my room and play 64 or something. Whereas now it's like, as an adult, I have to pretend I'm doing something on my laptop, like I'm doing work, and Mum's like, "What are you doing over there?" I'm like playing Crypt of the Necrodancer or something, and it's just like, I'm 30. Peter, do you play anything fun?
I mean, Dota.
Of course.
God.
Oh, Dota.
Bore everyone with Dota. It's just an easy go-to, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
That's what you want sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really pick anything up that I hadn't finished last year.
There wasn't a lot from last year that got away from me. Everything I wanted to play and finish last year, I did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was no real big catch up over some of this time.
Unless
around.
you picked up Witcher 3 or something, which you didn't.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
the
I'm
thing.
not so
They were there,
interested
but
in
if you
that.
didn't
Yeah.
want to play them.
That's true.
I still didn't make it through the Black Ops 3 campaign.
Oh, really?
But I'm playing the multiplayer like crazy
Okay.
because it's just it's like my junk food, that multiplayer campaign. It's the way they've evolved the movement system, and they've made it like it's not a human game anymore. You're bouncing off walls, you're wall running, you're doing fancy tricks. It doesn't feel like a grounded FPS anymore. But it just is so easy to pick up and play and put down as well and come back to. But I tried the story. Oh, I'm not going near that thing.
Really?
I hate the mechanics in the single player of the COD games. I cannot get past it. But yeah.
Katie Sackhoff didn't drag you through?
What's a
Starbuck?
Katie Sackhoff?
Battlestar, dude.
Gus never watched Battlestar.
No, I did. I watched the first season, maybe the
I
second.
gave you the entire series box set.
You did,
yeah,
and I gave it back.
Wow.
No, I
Okay.
liked it. It was very foreboding. There was a lot to get through, and I got through like 2 discs of the Blu-rays, and I enjoyed it. She was Starbuck, I
She was
believe.
Starbuck.
I knew what was
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on,
disappointing.
and I just looked at how many more discs I had to go,
What you
and I
can't
was
hear
like,
is the sound of 3 people shaking their heads.
That's true. It doesn't make a natural sound.
so I couldn't push on
okay,
with that.
fair
Or
enough.
CSI guy, or whoever that was.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The soundtrack's good.
Speaking about games that you have played or haven't played, what are you guys looking forward to in the new year?
I am very much looking forward to Uncharted. It is my number one go-to. When people say, what's your favourite game, if you're on a desert island, it is Uncharted 2. Uncharted 3 I thought was great, but I'm really looking forward to it, even though I think his face is weird so
It is a
far.
little,
Yeah,
it
it's
is
a little weird.
odd.
But that's the first one. But then, aside from that, Gus and I were looking at sort of a supercut of all the indie games coming out this year. And honestly, I think this is one of the first years where I'm more excited in terms of indie games than the big AAAs.
Mm. I'm trying to remember some of the names, and they all
Yeah,
escape me,
that
but
Cup
there was...
and... What's it
Cuphead.
called?
Cuphead?
Cuphead. yeah.
Cuphead, really looking forward
Ball
to
and
that.
Cup?
Ball and Cup.
Ben, you're a bit behind. There's...
Firewatch looks really interesting. to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Firewatch
It's
looks-
not. I don't think that's technically an indie game.
No.
It's all like the
Oh.
semi-indie games like Recore.
Yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah.
Recall got delayed.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's still this year, but it's later.
Exil, or there's like a pixel sort of isometric Dark Souls meets
Yeah.
something or other. You're a chick with a sword, and it just the art style looks beautiful. There's a lot of pixel based games coming
There
out,
is.
which I love
What's
that
Like
lot.
Drifter
Tacoma?
one and yeah.
Yeah,
The
all with
space
very
one?
obscure names that lead no way to understanding the title.
Unravel.
No,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that
That's
one.
coming out this year as well.
Just quickly, back to Firewatch, when you mentioned it, I know
Yeah.
Nick Boy's been going crazy about it. I'm really excited to see how that's a game. Like, from what I've seen, I'm trying to understand what you are doing in that game.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it
they
going to be
haven't shown
linear?
much.
Is it going to be...
I think it will be quite linear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It will be a kind of an everybody's gone to the Rapture experience.
that's the sense
Where
I'm
the
getting
story
too,
is
yeah.
With
pieced
the
together
story will
through...
be driven by, you've got your radio, your ham radio, whatever,
Yeah.
and you're marching around the forest, and
Yeah.
someone's like, there's a mystery.
I hope it's compelling, because on paper, it is the boringest game I've ever heard of being described. It's like you're a park ranger in the middle of, like, Yosemite, and...
A small fire has broken out. Watch it.
Yeah, exactly. How is it? But they're always the ones that surprise as well, so hopefully
Yeah.
there's something in that.
Yeah.
But you're right, I think Ben's right. There's a lot of indie games to look out for, even more so than the AAAs.
I know,
Yeah.
but like the past few years has made me realize that I get a bit more out of indie games. Everybody's gone to the Rapture. Stanley Parable,
Yeah.
Beginner's Guide.
Remember Spelunky? We played
Spelunky.
a lot of Spelunky.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I've stopped worrying about being impressed by.
Mm.
I now worry more about being impressed by AAA games. I'm
That's
more
absolutely
likely
true.
to be
Yeah.
disappointed by those than indie games.
Yeah.
Do you think we're
They're going with more of an open mind. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, all right,
Yeah.
what have you got? Like,
Yeah.
let's just jump into it. Yeah.
do we have franchise fatigue?
There would be a little bit of that.
Because I know
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed isn't coming out with a game this year.
Yeah, they are. Isn't
No,
there,
are they?
there's an India one or something?
Yeah, I mean that's a Chronicles game, which is the
No.
2D or
Yeah,
2.5D
platformer.
side scrolling.
Right.
Yeah, but
so
they're not
this-
actually coming out with a proper Assassin's Creed game
no,
this year.
not full.
So they're
okay.
continuing their spin-off series.
Yeah, the Chronicles thing.
Wow.
I think there's been 3 or 4 installations in that as well.
Okay.
Obviously, they're a lot simpler to turn around, and
They're pretty good, actually. I've played a
They're
few of
good
them.
fun.
Yeah.
Sequel to Black.
Yeah, and it's
Leads.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
But yeah,
It's
maybe, Lynn, we are getting a bit of sequel fatigue. It always comes down to the content, doesn't it? Like, if it's good, that's fine. But
Yeah.
I actually enjoy, the waiting a little bit longer. I think it'd be a great thing if there's not, a COD or a Assassin's Creed towards the end of the year. It's like, okay, great. That gives me a chance to jump into something else. Gives me a chance to sort of look forward to it as well.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost that moment now of, I can't wait for 2 more years
Yeah.
for this game to come out. It's going to come out biannually now or something like that. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the franchises that are doubling up again. I mean, we
There's
haven't seen a trailer for a COD, but we know one's coming.
Yeah, there'll be a COD. I mean, Mirror's Edge is getting a sequel, which it hasn't been Mirror's Edge in a while, so people
No.
are excited about that.
Looking forward to that.
Quantum Break for me is the one I'm.
Yeah,
interested in playing.
I'm really excited about Quantum Break.
Because I
Really
loved
hoping it's
Animals.
good. Yeah, I'm just hoping it's not another Watch Dogs.
Are they doing some
I
kind of...
don't. Yeah, I mean,
You
I
know,
think
had
it's
all
Remedy.
the hype,
It's
had all,
Remedy.
yeah,
So I feel like it will have more of a story.
yeah, good.
You know, like it will be Alan Wake sci-fi rather
Yeah.
than Alan Wake like Monster of the Week
Yeah.
fantasy.
I felt like it had more hype in 2014
It totally
than
did.
last year,
absolutely.
and I
Yeah,
feel like
Which may be a good thing, you know. Maybe
yeah,
they
which
kind of
I
put
think
on
is
the
a
back
great thing
burner and
because
just
I
really-
think people like the hype has died down in the last year or so,
Mhm.
and so once it actually does come out this year,
Yeah.
then hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah.
I'd be interested, speaking of hype, to see what the hell the Division is now.
Yeah.
That it's been...
Oh, right.
I mean, what are we on now? Is that 3 years of... Oh, two years of
Was it
press?
2013 that they did
I
their
think so.
first?
Yeah.
So that is a game which, look, by no means looks groundbreaking in terms of it's a third-person tactical squad-based shooter in an open-esque world. I mean, we've seen all those elements in games before. There's nothing there that we go, I cannot believe they're trying to, add this new element to this game. It's just, why is this taking so long?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah, that's
at the time it was so exciting because DayZ was like in alpha. People were playing this new genre, and then Ubisoft were like, all right, well, we're gonna make a shooter in a big open world,
Mm.
and it's gonna have the polish of a Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, DayZ has inspired something big.
Yeah.
And they were like, as long as DayZ stays big, we'll be...
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
crap.
God.
But and it's not that DayZ is necessarily small now. Obviously, it's lost
No.
a lot of its player base because it's just taken so long for it to get anywhere. But it's inspired already State of Decay, H1Z1.
Yeah.
Like the market is flooded now.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas when it was announced, it wasn't. So Ubisoft have a lot to prove, and maybe that's what's made them
Taking
hold
longer.
back.
Yeah,
because
possibly.
they've seen all these other things pop up and be like, well, we're not even doing it as good as those 6 guys in Canada or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
So
What's the game with Gary Oldman? Space one? And Gillian
Oh.
Anderson's in it as well?
Hang on, is that there was the trailer for... It's one of these new ship economy first-person, it's a bit of an
Yeah.
everything game. Come on, it's not Star Citizen. It's not... I get all these ones muddled, but...
Quick,
they're-
Ben.
What was the
I'm
one
Search it up.
Googling, I'm Googling.
Joe,
Hang
Joe
on.
was playing one at the end
Oh,
Where's
of
yeah.
Joe
the...
when you need him?
yeah.
But yes, it was one of these kind of Eve-esque games where you're doing
Yeah.
everything in space.
I'm only really interested in it because I've seen Gary Oldman
Gary
come
Oldman.
out and talk about the acting process involved in acting in video games.
It
Yeah.
is Star Citizen.
Yeah.
It is
Star
Star
Citizen
Citizen?
features
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not a... Yeah, that's not a game you can really just jump into, right? You commit yourself to Star Citizen.
I feel like
right?
I'm just going to watch the cutscenes.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of
like
just
I'm
what I
gonna
want
I'm
as
gonna
well.
search the
I just
cutscenes
want
and
the
just watch those
bullet points of
cutscenes.
EVE Online. I don't actually want to play it, and I feel the same with Star Citizen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But I believe that that's an early release at the moment where there's only a portion of the game you can play. Am I correct in saying that? I think?
Yeah, Star Citizen is kind of being built in modules.
Yeah.
So they're kind of starting to piece together everything. I
So
think
the-
at the
the
end of
ship-
last year, they started piecing together this massive game they built. So
So-
there was I think the first thing they built was effectively a garage.
Mm.
You know, you'd buy $150 worth of ship, and that would buy you, you download this garage, and then you can go in and walk around your ship
Compelling.
Mm.
and see what it is. And then they put in dogfighting. I don't know if they got the first person module out yet.
Yeah, I
they've
think
got
they were
a
having
first-person
trouble with that
shooter
from
as
what
well.
I
But that's
yeah.
coming too, and that means you can get out of your ship and walk around a base and meet Gary Oldman, and I'm assuming
Yeah.
Ask Gillian Anderson all your X-Files questions.
on
Yeah.
a date.
To be honest,
Amazing.
like
Want to come in my ship?
I have Star Citizen fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Just-
got announced and suddenly it had $50 million worth of back of money, and
yeah.
it's kind of on the burner,
Mm.
and I don't want to look at it until
I'm
it's
kind of
closer
feeling
to
the same
being
with No
something.
Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Oh.
excited about it. I want to jump into it, but I don't want to know anything about it now until I can actually get into it.
Mm.
I feel like that's a problem with knowing about a game for 2 years, 2 or
Yeah.
3 years, and seeing all the trailers and all the pictures coming out, and just going, oh, this
Great,
isn't
in
out for
3
another
years,
3
I'll enjoy
years.
that,
And then
yeah.
by the time the third year rolls around, you're like, oh, I'm kind of sick of it. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's going to be good anymore.
What other we know about films being made, and then you might see the trailer what's the earliest you've seen a trailer for a film?
A year.
A year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a year.
Maybe a little bit longer with Batman versus Superman.
With like a drip-fed teaser of half a
Yeah.
frame or something, and you go, okay, great, yeah, that's there.
Yeah.
But I mean, people aren't plugging books 3 years. I mean, they're
No,
writing
that's
them, but you
right,
realise
yeah.
they have to
Unless
finish
you're
them.
George
Yeah.
R. R. Martin, where he
Yeah.
just goes,
Yeah.
no, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's not ready
That's
yet.
not
It's-
really his fault though, is it? Like everyone's just asking him all the time.
So we have this form of entertainment which can keep people strung along for upwards of 3 to Last Guardian. God, if
Yeah,
we go
that's
on that.
right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's apples
it's
and oranges though, right? Like
I haven't played that.
like a film, like you release a trailer, it's hard. Like you've got your pieces, right? Like you shot your film,
Yeah,
it's
that's
in
right.
post production.
Mm.
There's not as much that can go wrong in post production making a film as there is like in coding.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that nothing can go wrong. Of course, stuff can go wrong, but there's more to go wrong with code and
Yeah.
code eating other code and just bugs and bug fixing and it
And
can
also
just, like,
other people like indie developers as well, kind of jumping the bandwagon or coming in a little bit as well. Like
Stealing your thunder a bit, you mean?
yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, you know, for years we've been looking forward to No Man's Sky, but you know, at the last minute is something else going to come in, which kind of scratches that itch for us.
Yeah.
Well, you were even, Pete, I believe, playing a game a year or two ago.
yeah,
What was that?
Rodina.
Rodina,
That's
yeah.
right.
I played it.
yeah.
I actually played it over the break. That was one that I kind of just jumped back into. It
And-
hasn't really evolved.
Hmm.
But it was like, it had that, you know, entry and exit of atmospheres and stuff like that, and you're flying around checking out different planets. Nowhere near the detail that
Of
No Man's
course, not
Sky
the polish. Yeah.
has. But
But have you possibly exhausted that part of your mind that wanted to try flying a ship in and out of planets?
I don't think Rodina was close enough. Rodina
Okay.
was technically interesting, whereas I think No Man's Sky is more about fun.
Yeah.
As opposed to like your Elite Dangerouses, you know, which are out there to like just satiate the market that wants to be in space right now.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They prefer to be
And-
in space than here.
I think the comparison you made before, which is very appropriate, is DayZ and survival games. You jump on now, and there is everything from Rust to there's another one that's like just a bunch of guys running around a sort of desert, sort of building shacks and making cars, and then there's the one in the snow. I can't remember any of their names, but there is a heap of them.
Yeah,
It's
it's
flooded. There was one on an island, and
kind of
to the
like
point
whatever
that-
survival
forest.
mode you want right
There was
now,
the forest.
you can have.
yeah, and I'm exhausted by that now. I
Yeah.
never want to play one of those games again.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick up berries and knock 2 bits of wood together because that market just got flooded. And we never saw that AAA game come out that came out and absolutely dominated that. Minus maybe State of Decay would probably be the closest thing we got to that.
Whatever happened to Sony? What was it?
H1Z1.
Yeah,
It's out.
it
It's
came
out.
and went,
Yeah.
but
No,
it just didn't really.
It's on PC too.
Yeah, did it
And
do anything?
It doesn't have great reviews.
Yeah,
It's a bit buggy. It's
Yeah.
pretty much, it's on DayZ level, I believe. Like where
Yeah.
they're up to now. It has that same
that's the
sort
thing.
of...
It was just a year too late.
Mm.
But, yeah.
All right, so we're one of the first people to actually return to the office at the beginning of the year, and some of us are actually working on projects other than Good Game, even though most of us are on Good Game. Ben, you're working on Fan with Hex.
I am. I'm working on a show called How to Be a Fan with Hex, and it's pretty much what the title says. So basically, the premise is Hex, aka Steph, is jumping into other fandoms, not just gaming. So she's looking at the world of cosplay. She's looking at the world of live action role playing, and rather than just go and meet these people and kind of find out why do you cosplay and what is this world, she actually does it. So she gets up on stage and puts herself into a cosplay competition. She goes for a weekend of live action role playing. She's going to make a fan film, much like people did when they made like Star Wars fan films and stuff like that. So yeah, working on that. We shot cosplay last year. We shot the live action role playing last year. We're just about to go and shoot her doing some roller derby, which is going to be fun. So it's a really good insight into why somebody will go from a casual fan to a really hardcore fan, and really at the core of it is about people finding their tribe. It's about people surrounding themselves with like-minded people and indulging in their passions. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Has it been really interesting working with Hex outside of a Good Game, I think?
Yeah, it really has, because, we're now involved. When we travel around with Barger or Hex, or you, Goose, as well, kind of meeting fans, the first thing they want to jump into is, what are you playing? Did you like, hey, I'm doing this thing in DayZ. What do you think of Minecraft? All that kind of stuff. They want to jump into you about that, and that's great. We obviously love that, but we also really like getting to know our fans and what other things they're into, and it's giving Hex a chance to kind of go, okay, look, putting aside your gaming, you're also into fantasy, you're also into cosplay, you're also into this. So tell us a little bit about that. And it just sort of broadens out the conversation a little bit. So we've just enjoyed meeting all these really lovely people who are really welcoming and really just wanting to share their lives with us, and that's been really great.
Awesome. And I think that's going on iView?
It's going to go on iView. There's going to be one episode a month. First one is in January, late January, and it will be all about the world of cosplay. So it's going to be fun. And what we'd like to do is when the episode drops, Hex will announce it on her Twitter account and through Instagram and all the rest of it. And basically, we would like to get together on a Friday night with fans and basically, all right, everybody load up iView and hit play at the same time, and we'll do a live
Group
tweet,
watching.
a group watch, tweeting along. I'll tweet along and give a little bit of behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're short episodes. They only go for about 15, 20 minutes each. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You need a group viewing room.
That's true.
I think either NBC or CBS one year
Yeah.
actually made one of those group viewing rooms for their online content.
Wow.
So you can basically log on to whatever their iView equivalent is,
Right.
and you can join these like Yahoo chat room-esque places
That's amazing.
where you can watch the episode together
Yeah.
with a group of other people and just chat with that other
Isn't that
group.
Fango or something?
Yeah, that's
Is it
right.
Fango?
Yeah,
I don't know.
something
I think
like
that thing's
that.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fango with your fans.
And-
Yeah.
Pete, you're trying out a new pocket format this year. How is that going? You've done a week of it so far.
Yeah, we changed up. Yeah, last year we were doing news, and we were doing like cut down let's play sessions effectively. We kind of expanded what the news is and injected more opinion and discussion. I think to kind of separate it a bit from just being reading headlines, regurgitating headlines, which you can get anywhere. You can't get opinion, a particular person's opinion from anywhere but the source. So, more of Nick is a positive thing in that aspect, I think. And yeah, this week we've been letting our Let's Plays run for as long as they feel appropriate, but without cutting them down. So last year we would play for 40 minutes to an hour of a game and then cut that down to 8 to 12 minutes. And this year we've just been uploading the full session. So Nick has been performing for the whole session, and we're giving that to people. The reception of that has been mixed, as we expected. You give someone something and then change it on them. It can
People hate change.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like
change is
change.
scary. But it's also it was trying to serve a different audience as well, and we've kind of seen a bit of that audience kind of speak up as well, and actually enjoy the longer format. So we've found a compromise. I think we're going to stream a couple of days a week moving forward, and on the days that we're not streaming, we're going to do cut downs as per Pocket 2015.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everyone's getting enough content, and in a week.
And do you think this is more of a reaction to how you're finding yourself in the online space? We basically come from a television background and we know how to make TV, but suddenly Pocket is a show that is online, it's on YouTube, it's on iView, it's in this online sphere. How do you kind of mesh yourself with the rest of what's happening online?
Yeah, totally. We want to be something different and unique. We don't just want to conform to what other people are doing. We want to try and make something that's along the same lines as what other people are doing, what's successful, because that's obviously what people are interested in watching. And yeah, it's interesting bringing television techniques into making video content for the internet. And the great thing about Pocket is because we have an immediate feedback loop, we're immediately getting my phone is buzzing in my pocket now because we just published an episode, and people are saying they hate it.
I'm just texting
You're
you.
you need to not react immediately, because otherwise you'd be changing every other day. But it is good to be able to have that communication line with your audience, and just to be able to, even if it's just to be able to watch what people are doing and how they're interacting with each other in the comments section and discussing what they like and dislike.
Do you think, when you mentioned before that putting sort of television-based experience into what is essentially web video, we've all had this discussion at one point or another, which is there seems to be an interesting response from people who view a lot of content on the internet, particularly things like YouTube, that they have a sort of a level of production they're comfortable with, but sometimes if you step over that, beyond that point, and you start to produce something which does feel like something of television quality, and we're talking, anything from sort of themes, titles, a lot of editing, all this kind of stuff, people tend to back away from it or get a little hesitant to watch it because they think this isn't a natural Let's Play session or something along those lines. This is someone's hidden a TV show on my YouTube thing.
Yeah, totally. Anything overly produced or scripted, people immediately see and react to,
Which is
in a
strange.
bad way. A great example of that is this first week being back. Nick's been wearing a suit every day, celebratory suit,
right?
And people do not like the suit.
No.
Yeah,
sure. You're wearing a suit on
you
my
look like
internet?
a late night host or something.
Yeah, totally. They're like likening it back to the roast or the weekly or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's not what people are expecting.
Fair enough.
And I think it's just like it's shifting expectations. I don't think the suit is a bad thing, but
that's a small step.
He's not going to be wearing it going forward, but that's not really a reaction to how people perceived it. It's just it was just interesting to watch.
Yeah,
it's funny.
But I almost want to bring up the point on the flip side of that is that we're seeing more and more in commercial television or just television in general a tendency to feel a bit more like internet content is finding its way onto TV. Dare I bring up the example of, what was it, Cats Make Us Laugh Out Loud?
I think cat videos and dog videos. They have general animal videos now as well.
Yeah, or clip shows using YouTube clips. And I equally feel the same level of discomfort seeing internet-based level production finding its way into TV because it feels a bit sloppy. It feels unproduced. But again, this is maybe that's just I'm in the opposite position of how people on the internet feel.
I think you totally are. That's you being scared of change.
Totally,
it's going to happen.
But I do sense that when you're watching a vertically shot video of a cat in 360p on your 60-inch LED screen.
Yeah,
that's true.
And it rates something wrong with the world.
And it's like the highest rating thing for that month, or it rated everything on else on TV.
What were you watching, or what did you tell me about it that was the highest rating thing on Periscope the other day?
Oh, it was literally, I don't know how long it was, but it was someone periscoping a puddle getting bigger in Newcastle in the UK.
Yeah.
How big did it get?
I think it got to like 3.5 meters, and basically people were jumping into the puddle with the boogie board or whatever. Yeah. No, like across. What? I think, look, I watched about 10 seconds worth of it. But 500,000 people tuned into that
watching
Periscope.
A puddle.
Watching a puddle get bigger.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Wow. That's the same as
coming up this year on Good Game
potato
puddle.
salad.
Would you like to see more puddles?
Crossing live now to the puddle.
Like you would just get
I'm standing here at the
puddle. In the puddle.
But TV is going to be on the internet.
Yeah,
eventually.
Exactly.
And then the lines will be indistinguishable.
Yeah.
We're going to lose it. There's going to be networks like the ABC will be akin to Rooster Teeth or Machinima, there'll be networks distributing their style of content.
I think that the biggest thing that I'm concerned about, and I don't want to get all political on this, but I think it's going to be like the divide in terms of film. It's that middle band that will go. You get the high-end House of Cards, Jessica Jones style drama production, which is, a couple of $1 million an episode, top of the tree, and then you'll get the low end, really niche, made by people like us.
Good Game.
Yeah. Shows that are sort of, from a community and a community point of view. And it's that middle band of television that will just sort of disappear. So, and I think, all the delivery method doesn't really matter anymore. It's just basically content driven.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's an audience that's growing up now, like a generation that's growing up with YouTube more than traditional television.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I think I mentioned last year the idea of I can still remember a time where I looked at a watch or a clock and went, it's almost 7:30, time for Simpsons, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like, I had to look at a clock and then run to a television. God, I sound old saying that. But you're right, that generation who grow up on YouTube, the idea of waiting for something to be on seems...
iPad in hand.
Yeah, it seems incredibly old-fashioned and out of date to think, I want it now, give it to me now. I think that's going to slowly disappear entirely.
I'm really curious from our audience's point of view, like how many people watch Good Game and same with Spawn Point as well, how many people watch it, at 8:30 on a Tuesday night or on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then versus how many people just watch it online? Like, why do people still watch Good Game when they know it's going to be on YouTube at 8, in the morning, ready to go?
But do you think that's more of a habitual thing? Like, we often talk about the fact that, we reminisce about the 90s and the early noughties, where you used to watch a TV show and you come into work or you go into uni every week and you talk to a group of friends about it because that was habitually what you did. And I think people still enjoy that. They still enjoy watching Good Game on Tuesday nights at 8:30 and then, going to work tomorrow, the next morning or going to school and talking about the episode.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do watch it online at any point in time, then that connection, that, that relationship that you have with a group of friends is kind of non-existent.
Yeah.
Like, we've watched TV shows where we've had to wait for people to watch the shows or to catch up. And we're like, what, you didn't do 13 episodes over the weekend? What do you mean? Like,
but to be fair, and nothing against our show that we make, I feel like our show isn't something that drives you to not miss that night's episode, because sure, the games are relevant to that week or that fortnight, whereas a serialized drama, definitely Game of Thrones, you want to make sure it's like, oh no, Gary hasn't watched that episode yet, everyone should.
No spoilers.
Where it's something like Good Game, I feel like if you were in the playground and you missed that episode, you just grab your phone and you watch it, you scrub through it, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if our show exactly dictates for...
But we need ratings, Gus, so let's not...
Oh, no.
So everyone should keep watching on television.
Particularly
Should I end each episode of Good Game this year with either a death or a marriage?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
A gunshot.
And I like to subscribe.
Make sure to like
and subscribe for marriage.
Covering all the bases here.
No, I totally, I know what you're saying there as well, but I just think it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, we should say that we get numbers, like we get a ratings for an episode. So on Wednesday morning, we find out how well our episode did, and I think all of us are a little confused as to how that number, where that number comes from. And some weeks we predict, as in like how. What I should clarify is that we're not sure how accurate those numbers might be, because they come from an older system.
It's an antiquated system for sure.
Yeah.
Like, we know what the system is. It's just like it's just wild extrapolation of like if someone switches on one of the like ratings boxes, it's like 20,000 views.
I think we figured out it's like 12 people per 10,000.
So if we have a bad episode, we think 3 people had gastro that night or something, and go, oh well, that was it. But it's strange because sometimes we'll make an episode where we'll all watch it and we'll think this is one of our better eps, and the ratings might be terrible, and and likewise we'll do one with a quiet week with some small indie games, and it rates
really well. Yeah, crazy.
Something's off.
Numbers.
Numbers.
People should just not go out to dinner and just watch Good Game on a Tuesday night.
I just want them to know we wait for that number.
Please like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Or just the people with the boxes.
Yeah,
like people
first
with
thing
the boxes.
Wednesday morning on our coffee run, we're all like,
Has
right,
anyone-
what's our numbers?
Does anyone know anyone with a ratings box?
No.
This is the thing.
If you know anyone with the ratings box, listeners, write into us. We want to know how
Are
it
you one of
works.
these people? Where did you get that? Did it just turn up one day under your TV and you went...
It's delivered by the Apple man who takes your...
Exactly, that creepy guy in the turtleneck.
Gus and I are actually working on new Spawn Point titles and graphics, so that's something interesting.
Well, for those who followed, obviously, the big show, Good Game, had a bit of a rebranding 2 years ago now, I think that was, where we updated the theme and the logo and a lot of the elements that go along with that, which was well overdue, I think. Anyone who remembers all the old... the look of the show, and now we're going to do a similar thing with Spawn Point, because again I feel that we all feel that show needs a bit of a spruce up, and it's a fun time to sort of try we're going to keep the show looking and sounding quite similar to how it was, but hopefully some updated graphics and a new title sequence with the adventures of Darren in a video game, and it's a fun thing.
Fingers crossed, it's all going to look really, really cool.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, but we're not changing the color scheme. I think most things are staying the
Still
same.
staying snot green.
Still staying orange and green.
Yep.
But 6 years is quite a long time to have a set of graphics for. And
I mean, 6 years is a long time for a TV show to be running.
It is.
Like, you don't expect to have to change your titles, right?
No, you expect to be cancelled
Yeah,
after
we'll be
3?
cancelled after 3.
Don't say that. We haven't done our
Don't
graphics
jinx
yet.
it.
Yeah, so that's been quite fun, and we'll continue working on that throughout January.
A couple of weeks of hard work. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, well, it could just be Gus crying in the corner.
Yeah, if next week all I
time.
contribute to a podcast is the small whimpering sound distant off a mic, that's because it's not going well.
Great. So we've talked about our holidays. We've talked about games. We've talked about, the future of television, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. All right, listeners, now's the time when, if you haven't seen The Force Awakens, you should turn off the podcast now because spoilers ahoy.
Spoilers ahoy! Spoilers off the starboard bow!
Quite naval there with that term, but all right.
Well, spaceships are called ships for a reason.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
right,
It's,
okay.
it's very
well done.
Neville, Okay, warning, spoilers from now on. So, guys, Star Wars The Force Awakens, Han Solo's death. Reactions.
He what?
I said spoilers.
Yeah, I know.
He just got
You
hugged
didn't even give
and
people time to reach over to hit
They had a little red glowy hug.
they had a hug, and then he just went, I'm going to go down the hole for a while, and he
Yeah.
just jumped down the hole. It's
Luke's
fine.
lightsaber survived a fall like that. There's
Yeah.
no... Maybe Han
Stop
come back.
having battles over large chasms.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like,
The
just-
minute that he walked on the bridge,
You knew
I just
of
went,
course.
Yeah.
why, as Han Solo, why would you walk on that
And
bridge?
you think about it, now that you mentioned that, obviously the obvious one is Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
He's hanging out over this giant hole.
Yeah.
Jedi?
Jedi,
He gets forced back into that situation, though.
What do you mean? Oh, of
On
course.
Bespin.
But I'm still
Yeah.
saying Bespin had a giant,
It's a
chute to fall
floating
down.
city,
Hang on. So we're saying, yes, that's understood. Jedi has the big hole that the Emperor gets thrown down.
Yep.
That was there as well. Let's rewind back to not Force Awakens, Phantom Menace, where they're fighting in that
Yes, that's
giant
true.
generator room that
Yeah,
no one
yeah.
knew what
Oh,
the
yeah.
point, and they finish up in a room with a
large
big
chasm.
hole.
Yeah, just stop doing it.
Just,
Yeah.
The
just
health
don't
and
walk on a
safety
bridge.
guys and the general Star Wars.
Just the
Build
Star
some
Wars
fences,
architects.
right?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, I mean, when you think about our world,
Hmm.
how many holes are there?
I just like the idea of the Star Wars
We get a
architects.
production assistant to get a number
Yeah.
beat on that.
Like, unless you're in those like sinkholes in Brazil.
Yeah.
I mean, like a manufactured hole. We don't do it.
With
To
no
be honest,
safety
it-
railing at all.
There are
We just
quite-
don't do it.
there are
Yeah.
quite a few bridges in the ABC atrium.
That's true.
Should we
Yeah.
start having intense
and-
conversations over them, and then
Just
when
like,
you get
don't
sick
walk
of it,
out
just-
on the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
Don't.
idea of Star Wars architects being like, it's looking great. You've got the palatial palace room over here. Have you thought about a giant hole in the middle of it?
Where's your hole?
Where's your hole? Well, we
it's
didn't-
regulation. Have at least one hole per structure.
with like a knee-high safety rail.
But yes, he fell down the hole. Poor Han Solo.
Where was Kylo Ren going? He was just heading off over that bridge.
He was so absent-mindedly looking for Han and Chewie then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's like, "Do-do-do, do-do-do."
I did actually read. I mean, that point in the film is obviously very powerful and emotional, and
Yeah.
hopefully everyone's seen it if we're talking about it now, and it serves a great purpose.
Well, they're going to hate us now.
Of
You
course.
just spoiled
Yeah.
it.
But the thing that I didn't like as much was, as you mentioned, that kind of haphazard way in which Kylo Ren heads off over the bridge. Han steps out to sort of confront him. Like, where was he going? Why? Huh?
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you, but I really like that. And
No,
I'll
no.
explain why after you finish.
Han steps out to confront him. You've got Finn and Rey climbing up that ladder and just opening the door to have a look to see what's going on. Like, everyone is perfectly placed, but I wasn't sold on why they were all in those positions. Whereas I did read a little, a write-up, someone speculated that it would have been great if Han was trying to buy them some more time. While either Chewie set the explosives or Finn and Rey were trying to get out of there. And that was him going, you know what, I'm buying time. That said, I do understand that he's going off the motivation that Leia said, if you see our son, try to bring him back.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sold by that as his reasoning for confronting him at the very beginning. It just felt like he saw Kylo walk past and he went to confront him. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think Han Solo knows he's going to die when he sees Kylo Ren before he steps out. He
I would
makes a
agree.
decision to die when he comes out of cover and goes onto the bridge and yells his name.
So if
Yeah,
he's not
sure.
buying them any time and he knows he can't
Because
get
he loves
Kylo...
his son. How hard is that to understand?
No. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But do
Like,
you know
I
what I
don't
mean?
think
Where
he
was that
needed
sort of
any more
film
control.
motivation to do
Well,
it?
he made a promise to Leia to
To
bring
try.
his son,
Yeah, but
bring their
even-
son back.
Even that, I think it's far more like personal than, I mean, obviously it's like Leia is the person he fathered the child with, and that's personal.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think it's just about, it's so much of just about him, like, wanting the love of his child, you know?
Yeah, of
Or
course.
actually,
Like-
it brought me around to him saying, you know, he knows he can't get his son back when Leia says you should try. And you're right, he knows because if he tries, he'll die.
Yeah.
And then when he sees his son, he realizes it's worth it to die just to get that
But
moment
Han
with my
Solo is
son.
nothing about anyone else at that point, other than, yeah, maybe Leia, but definitely Ben. You know, he's
Yeah.
thinking about, I just need my son, because because he spent the last like years as a smuggler again, kind of just like whittling away
Retreated from his family.
and running away from everything. And he's decided when he finds Ray and when they end up back, he ends up back amongst it all. He knows that that's now it for him.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
He can't run away.
this
again.
is his destiny, as it were. Like
Yeah.
it's either family or nothing, because he can't just keep being a smuggler.
Yeah, there's nothing else to go to. I also think that there's an element, and having deeply watched all of J.J. Abrams' work, because I'm a big fan of his work, I don't think he lets logic get in the way of a good scene setting. I think he's
sure.
like, you know what?
Fair
It
enough.
doesn't. I don't really care where this guy's going. And I noticed that through the 2 Star Trek films. And there's moments where it's like, wait a minute, why are you doing it that way? And why this and that and the other? But it's like, you know what? That is such a cinematic way to do that, to get these people into this situation and create that final moment. But it's like, I don't. At this point, logic is out the window.
You know
Yeah.
what? And to be fair, thinking back on Empire, that walk around Bespin, the two of them having that duel
Yeah.
in the dark, it's very disjointed. It's very 1 minute they're backflipping around the,
Impressive.
yeah, and the next
It's
minute they're
impressive.
walking through some dark hallways, like looking around, like we've cut from another scene. So it is a bit disjointed, but it makes for an incredibly cinematic scene with
But I
some
think
great
the great thing
framing.
about cinema is when you're faced with something so cinematic, visual and emotionally charged, you don't care about the logic of the scene.
No, that's
like
right.
you know, it's that suspension of disbelief. You don't really care if it really makes sense. Like only when you go back and think about it later on,
Like we're doing right now.
like we're
Yeah.
doing right now.
Yeah.
But for me, I knew Han was a goner when Harrison Ford came out and did so much press. for the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Like
mean,
I just knew,
right.
like he
Yeah,
did so
exactly.
many interviews.
Yeah.
He did every press, tour.
And all the
Lucas
naive
Dash
fans.
Disney have one chance with this guy.
Yeah.
And it is so not surprising that now Disney are talking about the indie reboot, or whatever it is they're going to do with him. Because that would have been his thing, right? I want a lot of money.
Well, he got 30 million.
30
or
million
30
plus
million?
0.5 of box office.
Yeah.
I have to die in this one, and you're going to bring back indie for me.
Just think of all the poor Star Wars fans who've always feel burnt by Harrison Ford, that he doesn't really give as much love back to the series, and then all of a sudden he comes out like some kind of neglectful father saying, you know what, I love Star Wars, and all these fanboys and girls are thinking, yes, he's back, and then he's like,
That is
I'm gonna die.
But I realized, when so many people went, oh, maybe he's finally, turned a new page. He finally understands the quality and the resonance.
He's
of Star
ready to get
Wars
back into the
in the
series.
world. And then he's like, no, they just agreed to let me kill him.
Yep.
But I mean, is this fine? Would have it been too much nostalgia, really, for him to carry over to the second film now?
Yeah.
And then we're obviously going to have him and Luke, in the same world. Is sort of
That's just,
one
yeah,
classic character enough at a time?
I think so for
Yeah.
sure.
definitely.
Because, I think this film was so much about paying homage to the original trilogy
Yeah.
and trying to erase a lot of the damage that the prequels put on the series, and how much hurt everyone was feeling after those prequels.
Yeah.
And just lack of faith in the series.
Mm.
And by bringing a little bit of, they brought a lot of the homage across for this
Yeah.
film. I think this was just about establishing the fact that there are going to be new characters, but keeping some of the familiar stuff there
Yeah.
to ease us through. And I think they've built so many incredible characters with this film that we're going to follow for the next 2 films,
Yeah.
that we don't need too much more.
Yeah, that's
have,
right.
I don't think we'll see Leia in the next film.
I
Probably.
No.
totally agree with you. I think it's going to be centered a lot on Luke, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy if moving forward, the franchise, if they're going to bring across one character, if it's pretty much just Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And Luke next film, and then
Yeah.
Force Ghost Luke
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
I want
True.
to see.
What about
so
Force
one legacy legend dies per film.
Yeah.
I loved how many notes it hit from the original film. I didn't find that as grating as a lot of people did, but I loved how much it paid homage to A New Hope. And I didn't actually think about it, call me naive, but until I realised that was Ben Kenobi dying. That's the note from the first film of this lovely old character dying. But can I just put, for argument's sake, Harrison Ford looked old. He looked really
He is old. I think, is he 70? 70 something?
And
Yeah.
to see him in that film and think, he can't do another. That was when you said he did all the press and you thought he's dead. When I looked at him, I thought, No, they're going to kill him off because there's no
'Cause
way
he's
you
old.
can... Because you just can't keep that kind of heroics running through someone that old
Well, it
in the
becomes
next...
like a Death Star nursing home then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
He's
Whereas,
73.
and the thing is, we've all watched Harrison Ford grow old, more so than I think we've watched Mark Hamill. So seeing Mark Hamill as Luke in that final scene, I have to say that the score, seeing his
Yeah.
face, like, I welled up. I
Yeah.
just turned into a little child again and went, oh, this is amazing.
There's something
And he-
eternally youthful about Mark Hamill as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because we've only seen him in that other role. Like
Yeah.
we haven't seen him pop up in many films as, old Luke Skywalker. And now as old Mark Hamill, which is old Luke Skywalker.
Well, he basically went from Luke Skywalker to Old Man Hamill. Like
Exactly.
there was no in between.
No,
Yeah,
he was
it's all
doing
just been
voice
voice
work and all
work.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what I do love the most, if we're jumping forward to that, is that scene of Rey handing the lightsaber across. Instantly, whether or not it was meant to be this obvious, the first screening I had, all I could think about was she represents the fans, and they're handing him back the lightsaber and saying, please, Luke, be a Jedi again, and, like, let us go back. I want to go back to the olden days. I want you to be a Jedi. I want to feel all the things I felt in the old films, and that's where they leave the film, and that's what got me. That's the thing that really struck a note with me.
So talking about that last scene, I hated the last shot.
Oh,
That
yeah,
helicopter
the
two
shot.
Now
shot.
let's get into the
Yeah.
technicalities of it all.
Yeah.
Like
And-
as we're working our way backwards through the film, I just thought that shot was so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like you could have cut to black like any of the 4 shots before that one shot. You know,
I have
Luke,
to
Rey.
summarize my gripe with this, which is that every ending frame on a Star Wars film is a painted picture. It's a still shot of something
Yeah.
you could frame and put as a background or put up as a poster. Even the prequels did it to a certain extent, and that was fun. Whereas this one, there was a shot that preceded that helicopter shot, maybe 3 beforehand, where you had a wide-angle shot of Luke on the left and Rey on the right, and they were standing on the complete opposites of frame, and you had this wonderful Northern Ireland landscape behind them, and it was a static tripod shot, and it told you everything about the scene you needed to know, and you could have just
Cut there.
you could have wiped
Yeah.
straight to the ending there, and they go to this helicopter shot. And the problem with that is because we all know it's a helicopter shot,
Yeah.
which means that there's a helicopter,
helicopter.
Yeah,
which
that's right.
it does not exist in the Star Wars universe.
Maybe it was
Therefore,
Chewie doing hot laps.
exactly.
It just
Maybe
felt like a
It's
Michael
R2
Bay
going, I'm here
shot.
too.
yeah, R2
Yeah.
got back in the
Yeah.
X-wing, flew around, and it's his POV from looking back around. But
Yeah.
and it's not even the best shot I've seen.
Well,
It's a
it
bit
feels so
wonky.
Michael Bay. It feels so
Yeah.
non-Star Wars in a way.
Yeah, that
It
sort
was
of parallaxing
almost
of
like
ground
the
and
Northern Ireland Tourist Commission
Yes.
specifically asked JJ for that shot because now they're going to plug the hell out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It
You
did,
can come to the island where Luke Skywalker is still there.
yeah.
You know, come and say hi to Mark
Yeah.
Hamill.
Lonely Luke is still there.
They just
Lonely
prop
Luke
up a
is just
cloak
hanging
at the
out.
top, so every time you get up there,
Aw, you guys.
Yeah, so look, I agree with you entirely on that.
Okay, on the topic of the new characters, so Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Yeah.
I love them all. I
Yeah.
love Rey.
Love them all.
Yeah.
Move on to the next.
Brilliant.
I think we all
and that's,
agree.
and that's
Agree.
brilliant. I think I've said over the last couple of weeks that I'm just so glad that little girls and little boys around the world are growing up with the Star Wars where there's like a kick-ass female character as
yeah.
a lead. I
Yeah.
think that's so awesome.
Yeah, and not once do they mention her appearance or make reference to her appearance or
Yeah.
anything like that in the entire film.
Mm.
You know, like
Don't say you're just a girl or you can't or anything like
No, there's
that.
none of that.
not even just like just even the way she's dressed or anything. You know, like she's just a character that exists in this world.
Yeah. Well, there was a little hand-holding thing that they kind of
That's true, yeah.
inserted that, but they got through that really quickly, and it was
Yeah.
almost played off as this comic, or this moment of comedy between the two of them.
What I liked about that, and especially about the relationship that blossoms between the two of them, is that it may turn romantic, but it's not directly a sort of an infatuation from the beginning. It's more a respect of each other, and the fact that Finn looks at her and sees the way she looks at him is like a human, and he's been a stormtrooper his whole life, and vice versa. Rey has someone who looks at her like a human as well and treats her not like a slave girl or something like
Yeah.
that. So they have this instant friendship, and it's when they're on the Falcon both jumping around being buddies, and you're there as the third buddy being like, we're all besties now. And, marry that to both Poe and Finn becoming besties, the bromance,
that's
the
right.
Star Wars bromance that I
Yeah.
think is just so bloody brilliant.
I genuinely hope that we see a homosexual relationship in Star Wars. because I think it would totally work between those two.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Disney would
Yeah.
ever go for that. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
I-
interesting
yeah, I
because
don't
I've
think they
read a
would.
lot about people saying Poe could be the first non-straight, well, supposedly non-straight character in Star Wars,
Yeah.
which I think would be amazing. But if they ever do it, I think it would be very like
I don't
under
think
the
it needs to be
surface.
overt.
Very subtle.
Yeah, very
yeah,
subtle.
yeah.
By any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But like, I don't think it would hurt to have that kind of character.
Yeah. Ben, you love Poe.
I do. He's my
Tell us more
favourite
about
character. Well, first of all, I love Oscar Isaac. I just think he's excellent. But from the second he popped up, there was just something about the way he just turned to camera and that shot. I was just like, okay, you're going to be awesome. And then when he got captured, and he, he's there in front of Kylo Ren. He's like, who talks first? You talk first, or I talk first? It's like, wow, okay, they're putting the humor up front from the get-go. You guys are not mucking around. You're just getting straight into it. And I think that there are very few actors who can pull that off. Oscar Isaac did a beautiful job of it. He can ride that balance between a man committed, but there's also a lightheartedness to him as well. And, that whole sequence when him and Finn are escaping on the TIE Fighter, I actually think is probably my favourite sequence from the film, because I love all of his real-world reactions. When he jumps and he goes, I've always wanted to fly one of these. It's like, yeah, so have I. I've always wanted to fly one of those. And then when it punches out of there and he goes, whoa, this thing really moves. It's like, holy hell, it is really moving. He's like, I'm not going to call you FN, da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to give you a name. And, it's just take charge, get in there, do what needs to be done. And it's almost like he expected to be broken out as well. It's like he expected, I know I'm going to bust out of here. It's just a matter of time. And I just loved his energy throughout that whole sequence.
He's just such a cool guy, and that's why Oscar Isaac is the internet's boyfriend right now.
Yeah, totally.
No one knew.
That's true.
Would you
He's
say
all
that
up.
the thing about the character of Poe is that a lot of people have drawn the similarities between him and, say, there's the wisecrackingness of Han Solo, and there's the crackshot pilot of Luke, or another of Wedge, or something like that. But at the same time, his character is like a classic hero. I'm talking sort of like back in the days of who. Help me out here. Sorry, I hit the wall.
Like an Errol Flynn kind of.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
He's the classic sort of hero of someone like Errol Flynn or something like that. And
he's
it's fun to
swashbuckler.
it's fun to see that kind of character in cinema again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I've missed the Indiana Jones, and coming back to why I love the Uncharted series is I love Nathan Drake. He's a swashbuckler, and I love that. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Gus. I love that character, and I love that he's being championed in this film. I love the fact that originally they were going to kill him off, and they didn't. So I've got that to look forward to, and I love that he's there just enough, but not too much. I don't want a Star Wars film about Poe. I just want him to be sort of the Kramer of the group. He pops up every so often, says he comes in, does his thing, and then, right, I'll see you next film,
I could have
guys.
used one more half scene of him in the middle of the film. I think we left him and then didn't come back, and I think a lot of people I talked to didn't love his excuse of, I got thrown from the ship.
I would have liked more of, a little bit of an explanation.
I didn't need it. And I
but the thing is, I don't want to see it in cinema. I just love a comic book tie-in. Just a one-shot.
Ben's always okay with
I'm always pushing a comic book tie-in. But how I got off Jakku, I just want to know.
I've spoken to people and they're like, I just thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And because they sold it. They clearly sold it. I mean, I'd watched and analysed the trailers and stuff too much to realise that he was going to be in that scene in the X-Wing where he goes, woohoo.
Yeah.
So he will be coming back.
Yeah.
So when they put him in a burning ship, in sand, then buried him, then blew him up.
I know.
I love how
the
unnecessary.
first time I watched it and that, the unnecessary explosion. But on second viewing, it's totally necessary. Blow everything
He's
up.
dead, everyone.
Yeah, I don't think I cared knowing about how he got off Jakku. He probably just, hitchhiked. Off a scavenger ship or something and managed his way out of it.
He'd so do that, wouldn't he?
I know. I feel like he would make a good indie. Oscar Isaac would make a good indie.
No, I still think for me, it's Armie Hammer.
No, he's got no personality whatsoever.
I think Armie Hammer has that I'm in charge, but I'm way in over my head look.
I like the Lone Ranger.
He's too good looking.
Yeah, see,
and too big.
The thing is.
Way too big.
The thing I like about indie,
he's an archaeologist. That's the thing.
Action. You didn't need to be Stallone big.
No, that's right.
There was the 80s Stallone, Seagal. I mean, Seagal was kind of fat, but he had ninja skills.
Only after Glimmer Man, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so weigh him up next to Chris Pratt, which I believe for a long time has been the internet's
He's too big now as well.
No, this is the thing. Hang on. Either do I, but I'm saying, okay, Armie Hammer or Chris Pratt.
I'm talking about
Chris Pratt.
I'm talking about muscle mass, by the way, not big as in a star.
No, I know what you mean.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you those are the two options. Pick one.
I would pick Chris Pratt over Armie Hammer.
Really?
I think Chris Pratt has more of a personality. Yeah, Army Hammer, it's like robot
Yeah,
for me. Like
he's
nothing there.
Have you seen Lone Ranger?
I've watched Lone Ranger and it was a piece of shit.
Have
We're
you
gonna
seen
leave
The
it.
Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
I haven't watched that.
He's pretty good in it. He's
Yeah.
not great.
He plays what, a Russian agent? In
Yeah,
that?
he does. Look, you're up against Henry Cavill. Talk about a robot actor.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's so sexy. Like,
Yeah.
like he's actually made
He
of steel.
fills the Superman suit like Henry Cavill.
That was me running my finger down his abs, by the way.
We have that sound effect, actually.
Ready to go.
It'll probably just be Tom Hardy. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
He's taking all the
yeah.
roles.
Isn't he up for Bond? I don't want him to for Bond.
He'll
I do
mumble
love
his
him,
way
but
through
yeah.
Bond as well.
Yeah, as with everything else. Kylo. So I'm a huge Adam Driver fan from
Yeah.
Girls. So I love his acting.
Loved
I think
Kylo
he's
Ren.
brilliant,
Yeah.
and I think he did such a great job with the villain, and to be so nuanced with it as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the scene that really makes that film is obviously when Han dies. Like, that is the ultimate scene of that film. I think that's the one that people will remember the most. And that whole scene hinged on the line, I know what I have to do, but I don't know that I'm strong enough to do it. Can you help me?
Mm.
Like,
it's heartbreaking.
but when you hear that line, like when I just delivered it then,
Yeah.
like, it's kind of cheesy.
Shit ass.
But all the best lines are cheesy.
All
but
the
if
best
someone
lines
can
are
pull
cheesy.
it off,
Yeah.
then they've lifted a scene, right? And
Yeah.
he fucking nailed it.
Yeah, it's like anything. The antagonist has to have motivation. And if the villain of the piece if you can almost justify what he's doing, then you've got a good story.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best moments with Kylo was actually when he is confessing, I think it's to Darth Vader's burnt helmet. And he says, I felt it again, the pull to the light side, or something along those lines, which just absolutely blew my mind. The idea that I've been raised thinking that in this mythos, the Force is constantly trying to pull you towards the dark side. The dark side is always stronger, but, you have to be stronger to resist it. And for it to be about someone trying to be evil, but having the light side actually being the threat to his plans for the future was wonderful, because you could analyze that in a number of ways. One could be that the Force is always trying to balance itself out, so because there's no good Force at the moment, it's trying to twist him to be good again, and he doesn't want to be good, he wants to be evil, and that just motivates the next two films for me. I can't wait to see how it's the opposite of the originals, where it was Luke getting pulled to the dark side.
Yeah, he is an incredibly interesting villain.
Yeah,
And
and that's what you want.
probably more interesting than Darth Vader ever was in New Hope and Empire. Well, up until the scene
Yeah.
in Empire. But
Hey, sorry, are you keeping that a spoiler
That's
free?
the spoiler.
We happily tell everyone that Han died, but there's
No, Pete.
That's not
No.
true. That's
impossible. And Darth Maul was presented as this cool character, but never got the opportunity to be
Did you know
interesting.
Peter Seraf?
Fenwick's did the voice.
I don't know how to pronounce his last
Yeah,
name.
Peter Seraf.
Was the voice of Darth Maul?
Yeah.
I did not know. There you go.
What was his one line?
At
From
last,
after
we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
At last we will have revenge.
You episode 1 nerd.
I watched the trailer a lot. I think that
Yeah,
was
exactly.
that line's in the
That
trailer.
one trailer,
Yeah. Jumping back to Kylo Ren and how interesting. It's just the fact that Star Wars has always been so black and white. Really, Vader was the only character that kind of had this moral journey, and that was only from the back half of Empire, and then the few scenes he's in Jedi.
Don't spoil that for me.
Just to have this character that's struggling with his morality is so interesting, and I feel like this Star Wars is the least soap Star Wars has ever been, in terms just in dialogue, in terms of performance. It's the most real that Star Wars has ever felt.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying, bringing real world kind of dialogue from Oscar Isaac's character.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
true,
like that.
actually.
Just
yeah.
The script, I love the original trilogy more than anything in my life.
Yeah.
But it's so scripted. There's a lot of hamminess in it, but I think that adds to it.
Yeah,
there's so much character to it all. But I think this was it was so much more flexible and made it feel much more real. Down to Boyega being have you got a boyfriend? You got a boyfriend?
Yeah.
You know,
Got a good boyfriend? Yeah.
Just making characters more than the lines of dialogue they've been given.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I guess what I got out of this film was heaps more character than I got out of New Hope, but I maybe got across the trilogy.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, this
And-
feels more complete
Yeah,
than maybe a New Hope does.
yeah,
maybe.
and I think in hindsight we build that original trilogy up to be what we know it as
Yeah,
after the fact.
yeah, sure.
After seeing the whole saga play out.
Yeah, because
Totally.
I was a kid in the '90s and watched them all back to back, so
Yeah, of
I never
course.
knew the 3-year gap between each film. You know.
Yeah, that's
Exactly,
right.
and that's an interesting point to make. This is the first time I'm really, I mean, again, minus the prequels, that I'm experiencing this hanging on period to see what happens next. Whereas I do recall hiring all 3 of the originals on VHS, cooking a giant bowl of macaroni cheese, and watching all 3 of them for the first time and going, I get it. I get why these are amazing.
Mm.
And like last year was a fun year for me, but no. And so I totally agree. Although I'll make the point that a lot of people have drawn the similarities between this film and obviously A New Hope. But what I liked is that there were elements of Empire in it as well. This was an amalgamation of the original saga in this film, which now that they've done that, now that they've patched up the wounds from the prequels, and now that we've had our nostalgia fill, I'm really looking forward to where they take it in terms of the sequels. The next film doesn't have to be an Empire-esque film. I'm sure it'll hit some notes,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be a paint-by-numbers Empire sequel.
What's really interesting is that a lot of people have come out in defense of the prequels in the last few weeks after Force Awakens
and of
comes out.
George Lucas.
And of
Yeah.
George Lucas, which is really interesting.
Because he's a hack.
There's actually a
'cause he
very
executed
big
terribly.
online campaign at the moment to get him to direct episode 9.
Oh no.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no,
I know,
George,
I know.
no,
To
let's-
get rid of Colin
um,
Trevorrow. Yeah.
Trevorrow.
Trevorrow, whatever.
Colin Trevorrow.
Trevorrow.
What's interesting, I think, is as you said, a lot of the Force Awakens hits the same beats as A New Hope. You know, right down to kind of almost each scene.
Yeah.
In a way, you know, this is what the characters are doing.
Yeah.
This is where the emotional beat is.
Yeah.
And then, so people have really come out and written these articles about how, for the prequels, George Lucas is trying something different. You know, he was trying to talk about the trade routes. Oh God,
Yeah,
those
exactly.
trade routes.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Ventilation
really
shafts, all that stuff.
But really about how kind of the dark side came to being and kind of how people are sucked into the dark side. And whereas a lot of the criticism about The Force Awakens is the fact that it does nothing new. It basically rehashes everything that everyone loved about the original
And that's
films.
exactly, I asked you the other day, Lynn, if you'd seen the Charlie Rose 1-hour interview that George did. And it's actually really interesting. Like, if you're a massive fan and you like George Lucas and all the rest of it, it's worth watching. But that's the big point that he made is, look, Disney did meet with me when I sold it. They're like, look, we want to respect the source material and have a meeting with you. So what are your ideas? And he basically said, what I wanted to do was push the medium and push the story further. And they didn't want that. They wanted a retro film which looked back. And what I always like to do is look forward. New ships, new worlds, new characters. And all they wanted was a rehashing of just give us just give us episode 4 again, but just with younger people. And you got to respect him to a certain point for saying, no, that's not what I want to do. But if that's what you want to do, then you've got my blessing. Off you go.
Yeah, see, I totally disagree in the fact that, you know, Star Wars was not created in a vacuum. Like, this is a saga that got made and became a phenomenon. And now, what is it we love about this phenomenon is that exactly everything that we saw. It's not that, you know, there was extended universe stuff that people enjoyed reading about and exploring on their own, but in terms of how the films were made, the thing we loved the most was what these films were like. We want to see that again in some form or another. And I think for George to then think, oh no, it's just gives me free reign to go off and create this other story with these other planets and everything new, it completely disregards everything that we loved and respected about the originals. And so I feel that doing exactly what we've done with The Force Awakens and making this a homage to the thing that we loved treats it with so much more respect. It's not Star Trek. It's you know, it didn't span over multiple series and films. It was these 3 movies. It is 6 hours or 6.5 hours of story, and we want to enjoy that again on some level. And that's not by diving into some, you know, a parallel universe of it or something strange.
And I think generally speaking, the fans and the critics and all around the box office agrees with you. You know, it's what they wanted. So, you know, Disney were very smart. JJ's an incredibly smart guy.
I think with the prequels, the idea was good.
Yeah.
I think the ideas that he wanted to explore were actually quite good, because one of the main issues I have with the new film was I want to know how the First Order came about again. You know,
Yeah,
I want to
exactly,
know
yeah.
kind of that backstory.
Yeah.
And that's something that George Lucas tried hard to incorporate into the prequels. It was just that the execution was terrible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and his direction with it was absolutely, you know,
Sloppy.
really horrible.
Yeah, unfocused.
But that's something that you don't really get with this new film. If you've never seen the original Star Wars trilogy and you watch The Force Awakens, so much of the emotional pull and your relationship with it is dependent on your nostalgia for Star Wars. So if you've never seen the original trilogy and you watch The Force Awakens, Han's death, you know, that
Yeah.
whole relationship with Leia, that would make zero sense to you. So on a cinematic level, if you go into that film, you know, a lot of that won't work at
Which
all.
is really fascinating considering what JJ did with Star Trek. You didn't have to know anything about Star Trek, and you can completely watch that film.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think he did actually a better job with the first Star Trek film
Yeah.
in rebooting it.
But again, back to my point, it's like we're not abiding by some rule book of cinema for The Force Awakens. It's a Star Wars film. And you mention the word Star Wars to someone who's never seen a Star Wars film, and they will still understand the diehard enjoyment and, you know, passion that people put into that thing. And so it gets to excuse itself from those rules, which are, if I'm a newcomer to this movie, I might not understand this, these characters weren't introduced the right way. Therefore, it gets made the way it was. It got made. And so, for me, I feel like those rules get thrown out the window.
But isn't that just fan service, though? When you start making a film...
But when you're making a
for
film
fans?
for Star Wars, it is the epitome
There
of
are clearly
fandom.
enough
I'm just trying to be
fans.
devil's advocate
No, I
here.
know.
And I am a
And-
Star Wars
yeah.
fan.
And I'm fascinated by what like we're saying here, which is that Star Wars trumps all of those, you know, rules and guidelines because it is Star Wars. And in the last 40 years, I'm trying to think of a series that has carried with it that much passion and that much, dedication.
Yeah,
That-
has left such a thumbprint
Exactly.
on cultural.
So why should it have to
relevance.
abide
Unless
by those
you're in
rules?
China.
Yeah, okay, yes, fair point.
Yeah,
But,
Or
you
Latin
know, so
America.
it gets to just say, you know, screw the rules. We're making a film for the people who've seen it, and if you're not one of them, what's wrong with you? I said my piece.
there you go.
I've actually met many people over the last month who've never seen a Star Wars film.
Isn't
I
that
was very
amazing?
surprised, yeah.
Like,
There
how
are
do
people
you
out
not?
there.
I just
Mostly girls as well.
really.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
It's really weird. Like, I feel like, I mean, I obviously grew up with Star Wars, but a lot of girls probably grew up with Little Mermaid and other Disney films and
I grew
probably
up with
never,
Snow White.
never managed to get to Star Wars and not, you know, saw it as a little boys trilogy
Yeah.
type thing, which I hope it will be changing nowadays.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with
Yeah, I
Rey
hope so
and-
too.
And
Yeah.
and her
just
story.
quickly, I like to think that, well, not I like to think, but I imagine that a lot of that rejection of the film is from that fandom. And I've spoken to people as well since it's come out and said, you should go see it. You'd enjoy it just as a escapism film into a you know, an interesting and wonderful place. But they said, no, I could never do Star Wars. And it's because it has that sort of taboo of it's you have to be diehard into it or not at all. It almost feels like where it's the complete opposite. I feel like it's one of the most
Star Wars is probably the most
It's the
accessible
most
sci-fi
welcoming-
universe ever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because it's science fantasy, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
not
that's right.
science
And
fiction.
at its core, it's a family drama. Like,
Mm.
if you can't relate to spaceships and aliens, you can relate to fathers and sons.
But it's
Yeah,
a
and like
soap
kissing
opera
your
set,
sister.
yeah,
set
it
in
is a
space,
soap opera. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So again, I think it's an
Did that one just sneak through?
again, I think it's people being naive when they say that, oh, I couldn't get into that. It's geeky, it's nerdy, it's you know, fantasy. I would never care for that stuff. But you're right, it is so welcoming, and
Yeah.
so accessible, and such a simple story as well.
Yeah, really.
That these people are the people who don't like to challenge themselves with cinema. So
Yeah.
this is probably the kind of film you should go and watch.
I mean, more so than Star Trek or Battlestar. Or
Totally.
Any
Oh,
other,
who could watch Battlestar?
any other thing, you know? It's interesting. Yeah.
All right, just very quickly, what's the one thing that you hated about the film?
One thing I hated. That is a really good question.
Or disliked?
I'll kick it off.
Yeah. Okay.
Grand Leader Snoke? What?
Snoke.
Snoke?
Yeah, Voldemort.
Voldemort. Look, I understand that there's got to be a bigger baddie, and I think that makes sense in the story. On a technical level, I didn't like the way he was introduced.
Right.
I wanted to get a hint of a bigger evil playing puppets, you know, with Kylo and that sort of thing. And literally the way he was dropped in the scene was, I believe, Kylo was kneeling in a big plinth to him,
Yeah.
and suddenly you heard this big booming voice, and you're seeing this awkward giant figure, And I get that there was a bit of trickery there. Like you were meant to be confused as to who this was, but I didn't like that confusion there. I was thrown out of it. I thought, there's no giant people in Star Wars. What's going on? And for a moment, that made me terrified that JJ had made some horrible sidestep. And then you see it's a hologram, and you think, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So who is this greater evil? But on top of that, the point that he was CG just felt unnecessary.
Okay.
It was a one element that I felt was really, really CG, almost like prequel CG.
It's hard though because it's a CG character, but then
also
it's
being
got the
CG
hologram filter.
Yeah,
so, like, it was
that's
always
right.
going to look
Yeah,
CG.
CG and
Like
CG.
you meet the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back, and he's a big blue head.
Yeah.
Like that's what you get.
Yeah, and you're aware of him being a hologram.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, you're right. This is CG being put through another filter of being a hologram, and I found those layers a bit confusing. And on top of that, I would say I was missing a villain's theme, which on
Right,
further
that's
research,
true, yeah.
we worked out that the Imperial March doesn't actually kick in till Empire. So you do not hear the Imperial March until Empire. So hopefully in the next film we're going to get a really kick-ass bad guy, Kylo slash...
I've thought of my scene.
Yeah.
The smuggler scene.
Oh, yeah.
Where the two groups of smugglers.
without.
The funny thing is, I actually didn't mind the scene, but it felt the most un-Star Wars.
It felt Star Trek,
and that's exactly what I said the first time I watched it. I was like, oh, that is completely Star Trek. Like, why is this in the Star Wars film?
The thing, just quickly, the thing is, it's grabbing elements that you're not going to hear explained super quickly. You've got these monsters from another planet. You've got these two warring mercenary tribes, and the film knows they're not going to explain it to you. It's just all going to be like, oh, you weren't paying attention. This is the crap I'm finding myself in the middle of at the moment.
Yeah.
And that is very what he did with Star Trek, which was great because you just knew how crazy that universe was. You're like, I can't keep up. Whereas in Star Wars, we want to know everything behind those two mercenary groups.
And the casting as well, like kind of
the guys from the raid and
the guys from the raid, like at least their characters were like pretty stylish.
Yeah, sure.
Like they're all like ragbag mercs.
Are you talking about Kanja Club? What the hell is Kanja Club?
We don't mention the name.
Oh, okay.
But
that's what they're called in the film.
I know. The Scottish guy, is like making the phone call at the end of it all, like, they're on the ship with Han Solo, and he's like, whatever.
Thanks, Billy Connell.
Yeah, right.
He should have been eaten. There were still two of those monsters running around when he was on that. Only one of them had got sucked out through the lightspeed thing, and he's there going, they got away. I'm like, you're in the hall with these giant balls of death.
Yeah.
Act a little terrified.
Yeah, he should have been like shotgun to the head of the foot on top.
I didn't feel the monsters felt Star Wars either.
No, they didn't feel Star Wars. Yeah.
They felt Return of the Jedi special edition Star Wars.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah.
I wanted mini Rancors. What about that? Rancor puppies.
Yeah, Rancor pups.
That would have been good. It's kind of cute.
What a Rancor puppy.
Call up Rianne Johnson, get him to put it in the second film.
Yeah. Lynn, what about yourself?
I think I agree with you guys, but for me, I didn't feel like Starkiller Base, or as I call it, Death Star Mark III, should have been destroyed. I felt like that was too easy to just kind of go in and go, oh, they have this new base, let's just destroy it, and then boom, it explodes.
The same way we've always destroyed these things.
And that felt like I would have liked them to maybe incapacitate
cripple
it, and then cripple it. You know, then they have to regroup, and
the planet falls out of alignment, and
might find an interesting way to kill it.
Yeah, but it was like just shoot this
that it's
bit,
destroying or something like that.
Well, send it off some kind of gravitational pull, so it actually will pull itself apart as it rolls around, and
it's absorbing all that energy. Put something in that field, you know. Yeah,
disrupt that energy, so then it does something. But you're right, and to so neatly collapse into a perfect sphere as they fly away from it, just did feel like the effects guys.
I mean, it pretty shot though, didn't it? Them like the silhouettes flying past the sun.
Not what, like 4 ships get away from it. There should have been like hundreds of ships of people are getting away from that planet. But yeah.
I think for me, I've watched it 3 times, and like I'm on the Star Wars subreddit every day, and like and I've got the visual dictionary, and I'm just absorbing as much as I can. And
do you have a TIE fighter, Pete?
Yeah, and I have a TIE fighter that's like the capsule is bigger than my head.
Like you wear it.
I'm in. I'm totally in. Like I love it. I think I love it as much as I love the original trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of that has been. And there are problems with the original trilogy as well, but like it's so easy to just write them off because you love so much of the other stuff that's in those.
And you came so late to that party as well that it didn't feel like we had the amount of input that we might have now having this discussion. When you saw the originals, we were 30 years too late to have. So we're like, they're done. Aren't they great? No one could change those originals, could they, George?
The one issue that I still have Like I can even get past the smuggler scene. Watching it the third time, I was like, yeah, it's over pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Is the fact that when I like Chewbacca's reaction to Han's death. I like his little rage mode.
Yeah.
I like that he like pilots the thing out of there. I don't like that the first time that Rey and Leia meet, Rey and Leia hug, as if they know something, and Chewie just doesn't get a shot.
Yeah.
You know, like he gets, I think he gets
past.
one more shot
Yeah.
before he's co-piloting again.
I think
where
he's
a
got
bit
his-
sad.
And it's before R2
And
wakes
it's just
up, and
as
he's just
R2
like,
wakes up. But it, like, I didn't cry in the film, and I wanted to. Like, I felt myself getting emotional at points, but I never got to the point of like I'm gonna cry. But I think I would have bawled my eyes out if Chewbacca and Leia had a moment together when they get back.
yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's true.
That's the relationship. They're the characters that you know and care about. And Chewie has known Han for 40 years.
Yeah.
Han's known him for 30 years. Like, these are the people that cared about him the most.
Han told Chewie to look after Leia. Like,
Yeah.
there's a relationship
And what's
there
really
as
weird
well.
about that shot was Leia sees Rey, and so Rey sees Leia, and then Chewie just walks past
Right
Leia.
past.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when Rey and Leia hug, Chewie's in the background,
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
talking to other people, and you're like,
Yeah.
but Han just died.
Yeah.
Your
Like,
life,
Chewie
your
and
life
Leia
bond
should
is
be,
broken, or whatever he had with
should be
him.
commiserate or being, grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, I know time has passed because she changed her robes. But,
Yeah.
She's mum at a dinner party dress
Yeah.
after that.
But, like, all of a sudden he's cool with Rey being captain, and he's just the co-pilot to someone else who he doesn't owe anything to, and, like...
Oh, look, I liked his look over and kind of nod to her in appreciation, because I was like,
it's the
we
closest
needed
you
that.
get to Peter Mayhew's eyes.
I was
as
about
well.
to say,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
the
that
most
one moment where you go,
Chewbacca.
oh,
Yeah.
there's Peter Mayhew.
Yeah, it's the most Chewbacca, I think, in the film.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's still just like it happens really quickly.
Yeah.
And you're right, that scene would have just hit home, because seeing Han die, it's too much too quickly to go, what's happening, how is this going to affect, how they're going to get off the planet, things are buzzing in your head, but to just have that moment, to have that moment of Frodo crying after Gandalf falls off the bridge,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
what you want that moment of mourning,
Yeah.
just after it all suddenly lands on you and you think, Han's gone.
Yeah.
And how does this affect Chewie, his sidekick?
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Yeah, man.
Okay, well, to finish this podcast off on a
So
really
soon?
lovely note is, what is your favourite thing about The Force Awakens?
Poe.
I want to kiss Poe.
That's it. I want to
think
spend my
he's
life
awesome.
with Poe.
I think it has the best lightsaber fight in a Star Wars film.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a big call.
Oh.
Because
And I
so many
know it's a big
people have
call.
said the opposite.
There's heaps of choreography and flashiness in the prequels, and like I went back and like because I was thinking this and I was like I think it's my favorite, and I went and watched the Duel of Fates.
Yeah, sure, the
That
classic one.
scene, and it's just like swinging at air and stuff. Like it's
Mm.
pathetic, really.
Yeah.
And throughout that trilogy, like yeah, they got good sword fight choreography going on, but again, it just wasn't. No swing had impact.
Hmm.
The fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in New Hope is pretty pathetic. Like it's cool because everything has impact,
Yeah.
but it's like it's old men wagging sticks at each other. The Empire one is pretty good, but that's more about the hide and seek and the
Mm.
fun of that sequence.
It's
Yeah,
about
it's
standing
more
there,
stealth.
not swinging.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about standing there, each holding their sabers, posing in front of
beautifully lit.
a window.
Yeah, and the Return of the Jedi one is the only one that comes close. in
Yeah, I
my
was
mind,
going to say that one.
because it is great and there's heaps of emotional charge in it.
Yeah, music and
But again, the
cinematography.
choreography in those originals wasn't quite as good. You know, this new one has the right level of choreography for like how well trained these people
Yeah.
are
Would be, yeah.
Yeah.
and would be. I think it's beautifully directed, that sequence.
Yeah. What a setting.
Beautiful, like just use of light.
Yeah.
You know, because like it's dark and it's snowing and it's just this purple glow because it's
Yeah.
red and blue crossing.
Mm.
I love it. And yeah, to like people's criticism obviously is that John
Why?
Boyega shouldn't be able to use a lightsaber because he's not force sensitive or whatever.
Oh, but they got
like-
rid of all of that, right? Like somewhere in
Well, I mean,
the
my
prequels or something.
my personal explanation for it is the fact that like we see earlier in the film a stormtrooper using a melee weapon.
Yeah.
That's right. He would have
Stormtroopers are
had
trained
some battle
to
training.
use
Yeah.
melee weapons.
That's right.
And when you watch the fight, Kylo Ren has the upper hand on him the whole time.
Yeah.
Knocks him down. Finn gets back up, pushes him against a tree and burns him.
Yeah.
And then Finn gets a lucky shot off.
Mm.
And then immediately
Cut up
Kylo
the
Ren
back.
cuts him up the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's disarm, cut up the back.
Mhm.
He's on the ground. You think he's dead.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then when Rey picks up the saber, then that's when like the magic happens. The trees start coming down.
That's
and
right.
It's like
Yeah.
and the world tears apart, and it's beautiful.
Well, it's
Yeah.
Kurosawa, isn't it?
It is.
Like that,
Yeah,
that
that
whole
is
bit
true.
is just Kurosawa.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I spoke a lot. So
That's all right.
We know how much you love Star
Yeah,
Wars,
thanks.
Peter. Gus.
BB-8.
Of course.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like, and not just because he's charming, but also the design and the aesthetic of that thing is just, I can't stop looking at the colors and the patterns and the personality that they've injected into that. I don't like R2-D2 anymore. Like,
No.
I look at R2 and I think, oh, look at you can't even roll. And I actively went out and bought a $25 drink bottle shaped like BB-8 to put on my shelf that I can just have him to look at. And I just think the design of him, the personality of him, his moments in the film shine. He doesn't get in the way. He serves a purpose, and I just think it's one of the best sort of rethinkings of.
He's almost a co-lead
He
Yeah.
really
of
is.
the film,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's the first character introduced.
Yeah.
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 How do we think it's going to do at the Oscars? Anything?
Oh, at best, the technical awards
Yeah.
nominations,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
It's never
Oscars.
going to win Best Picture.
Yeah, they're not going to recognize that.
Yeah.
I just loved how funny the film was. I think it actually, as
Yeah.
a comedy, it's probably one of the best comedies
That's
of
true.
2015.
Well, it's one of those things that, like, when humor is peppered within a story you already love, it just hits home even more.
Yeah.
Like, those moments of laughter feel so much more relieving in a Star Wars film or in something you enjoy than if you're watching a comedy, which is there to make you laugh.
Yeah.
They're so surprising.
Mm.
And I think that just made it, so delightful for the audience and everyone watching it. It's just you weren't expecting it. You were okay. You were open
Yeah.
to it. And so when it happens, it was just, delightful is the best way I could put it.
Yeah,
and,
and
you said earlier, they started off early.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got it in there. I was like, oh, okay. They set the tone perfect in the first 10 minutes, didn't they? They
It almost had
I
that.
could talk for 20 minutes about that scene.
Yeah.
And the comparison I would make is it's almost on line with that kind of the first Avengers film. It had that
True.
casual nature that you weren't expecting in a film of this weight.
Yeah.
You were thinking, oh, it's a space epic or it's a superhero film. You can't be funny.
Yeah.
And then to have these little lines that catch you off just make them twice as
Yeah.
funny as they should be.
I mean, it's a great thing when a film makes you feel like an 8-year-old again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I went into that film as an adult, as, an almost 30-year-old adult, and I came out, being 8
Yeah.
again. And I came out of it wanting to be best friends with all those
All those people,
characters.
that's
Even
true.
Kylo. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to be best
Give him
friends
a
with
I
hug.
could
everyone.
change him.
Give him a hug.
Yeah.
Han
If I
couldn't, but I
change
could.
him. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Daniel Craig's cameo.
Daniel Craig's
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out.
Yeah. Which is amazing, and I only
As
noticed
BB-8.
it.
Amazing. You'd never
You'd never pick it.
Yeah, as the chasm in the end. No.
Yeah.
um,
To clarify, as the stormtrooper who gets mind controlled by Rey, I think we need to.
Which you can
Yes.
completely tell. Like,
I know.
the first time I was like, no, but then the second time, and it's not just his voice, it's his physicality.
I know,
the way
you-
he drops that gun.
he sways
Yeah.
those hips, man.
Yeah.
He is a
he's
ripped
hip swayer.
stormtrooper under that armor. You can tell.
That's right.
Good place to leave it.
Yeah, and that's it, folks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
Ian. Thank you.
Bye.